What if I told you that a single stone door, sealed for more than 3,000 years, could hold a force strong enough to destroy anyone who dared to open it? And what if every death, accident, and tragedy that happened after the discovery of Tutankhamun wasn't a coincidence? So, is there really a curse protecting the boy Pharaoh? Or should we have never awakened what was sleeping in the darkness of Tomb KV62? To understand the so-called Pharaoh's curse, we need to go back to Egypt in the 14th century BC. A golden era marked by capricious gods, complex rituals, and the deep belief that death wasn't the end but the beginning of an eternal journey. The pharaohs weren't just rulers. They were divine intermediaries, beings who walked between the world of humans and the realm of the gods. And when they died, they needed absolute protection to ensure their souls reached the afterlife. That's why their tombs were built like spiritual fortresses, symbolic traps, warning inscriptions, and protective magic rituals surrounded these resting places, preparing them to face intruders, human or supernatural. And among all pharaohs, one became the symbol of this ancient belief: Tutankhamun, the boy king who took the throne at just 9 years old and died mysteriously at 18. For centuries, his tomb remained hidden in the Valley of the Kings, a small, almost forgotten tomb that miraculously escaped the massive looting of ancient times. Then, in 1922, British archaeologist Lord Carnarvon finally found the entrance to what many consider the most important archaeological discovery of the modern world. And that's when the world heard, for the first time in centuries, the echo of an ancient warning. Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the sleep of a pharaoh. A phrase that was, in T, actually written inside the tomb, but gained terrifying power once real tragedies began to unfold, one after another. Coincidences, fatal accidents, or did something that should have stayed buried forever finally wake up? The story of the curse begins the exact moment Carter breaks the seal on the door. Picture the scene: a narrow passage, ancient dust rising into the air, the dry smell of time trapped for 33 centuries. The lanterns reveal hieroglyphs, still vibrant with color, and a deep darkness dominates the chamber. As he removes the stones blocking the corridor, Carter hears a faint crack, like something old had finally been released. Then, on the day of the official opening, Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's financier, steps into the tomb beside Carter. Days later, he's bitten by a mosquito, a tiny injury, until it becomes infected in a strange, unexpected way. Not long after, Carnarvon dies. Egypt goes into chaos. The press explodes with headlines about the curse of Tutankhamun, and the coincidences just keep piling up. At the exact moment Carnarvon dies, every light in Cairo mysteriously goes out. In England, his dog howls and drops dead at the same time. Others connected to the excavation suffer bizarre accidents. A radiologist who examined the mummy dies months later. One team member collapses suddenly and never recovers. An industrialist who visited the tomb has a heart attack right after returning home. Even Carter's own family reports strange events, objects moving on their own, voices echoing in the night. Newspapers say it's vengeance from beyond. Egyptologists deny it. Scientists blame ancient fungi and bacteria, but nothing explains the timing, the pattern, the synchronicity. And here's the most disturbing detail. When Carnarvon's body was examined, the infected wound was in the exact same spot as a lesion found on Tutankhamun's mummy. Coincidence or punishment? And that's only the beginning. In the decades that followed, people linked in any way to the tomb suffered sudden deaths, strange accidents, bankruptcies, psychological breakdowns, and personal tragedies. Even those who never entered KV62 but simply transported the artifacts reported terrifying misfortunes. With every new incident, the world remembered the ancient warning: do not disturb the pharaoh's rest. Of course, there are rational explanations: toxic fungi trapped for millennia, unknown bacteria, vulnerability to illness, statistics, coincidence. But how do you explain the reports of shadows moving in the dark chambers? Or the heavy, suffocating atmosphere described by several team members, like something watching? Or the sudden cold air Carter said he felt whenever he approached the sarcophagus? And speaking of Carter, maybe the biggest mystery is his own fate. Unlike the others, Howard Carter didn't die abruptly. He lived until age 64, which many see as proof that the curse doesn't exist. But some claim he was chosen, that the force guarding the tomb didn't want to kill him, it wanted to use him. After the discovery, Carter spent the rest of his life obsessed with Egypt and increasingly isolated. Friends said he talked to himself, others said he avoided sleep, and some witnesses swore he repeated the same sentence during moments of confusion. I set it free. Which leads to the most unsettling question of all. If Tutankhamun really carried a curse, was it protecting the tomb? Or trapping something inside it? An ancient energy? A spirit? A force that now walks freely thanks to the excavation? Maybe we'll never know. But even today, nearly a century later, researchers report strange sensations when visiting the tomb. Tourists faint, cameras glitch, batteries drain out of nowhere, and experienced archaeologists refuse to enter KV-62 alone. Is it all superstition? Or do ancient forces exist, forgotten by science but never erased from the world? After all, there's a reason Egypt buried its dead with such care. And maybe, just maybe, humanity made a mistake when it disturbed Tutankhamun's rest. A mistake that still echoes to this day. As the years went by, the stories about the curse stopped being just old newspaper headlines. They became a cultural phenomenon. Every researcher who walked into Tutankhamun's tomb carried not only the weight of archaeological responsibility, but a psychological burden as well. And the more science tried to rationally explain the deaths and tragedies, the more the events seemed to pile up, as if something wanted to prove it could not be silenced. One of the least discussed, yet possibly most disturbing episodes happened to Arthur Mace, one of Carter's closest assistants. Mace was highly respected, healthy, disciplined, until his body began to fail him in an abrupt and inexplicable way. First, fatigue, then constant pain, and within weeks, he collapsed. He died slowly, agonizingly, as if something were draining him from the inside out. The chilling detail. Days before dying, Mace confided to a friend, "I feel like something has been following me since the Valley of the Kings." Another mysterious case involves Richard Bethel, Carter's personal secretary. After helping catalog the objects from the tomb, he began experiencing episodes of paranoia. He locked doors, avoided windows, said he heard dragging footsteps inside his home, even when he was completely alone. He was found dead in his hotel room, lying in bed. No signs of struggle, as if he had simply stopped breathing. The coincidences were becoming harder and harder to ignore. Then, in 1930, a strange chain of events caught the attention of the European press. Bethel's father, devastated by his son's sudden death, fell from the window of his 7th-floor apartment. The police called it suicide, but staff members insisted he wasn't alone in the hallway that night. The pattern was impossible to deny. People connected to Tutankhamun directly or indirectly were being touched by an invisible shadow. It was as if the tomb had become a sensitive entity, and it was reacting. The most intense moment in this entire story comes decades later, when the Grand Tutankhamun exhibition travels the world. Thousands gather to see up close the astonishing artifacts discovered in 1922. Statues, amulets, necklaces, funerary pieces, powerful symbols of ancient Egypt. But with the exhibition came new reports that reignited the legend of the curse. During setup in Paris, a technician suffered a bizarre accident. A metal shelf fell by itself, no one near it, and fatally struck him. Hours earlier, he had told a colleague he didn't feel comfortable touching the pharaoh's objects. In London, one of the rooms displaying a treasure chest from Tutankhamun's tomb had to be evacuated due to a strong burning smell. Despite no fire whatsoever, the security cameras recorded strange distortions, dark shapes drifting like moving shadows. In Los Angeles, guards reported hearing soft footsteps walking through the exhibition halls after closing time. Motion sensors triggered without explanation, and multiple visitors fainted upon entering the tomb section. But the most unsettling incident happened in 2019, during a quiet night shift at the London Museum, when an employee on patrol found the room completely empty, yet clearly heard a sound coming from the central display case. A delicate sound, rhythmic, like someone tapping lightly on the glass. An audio recording from that night exists. It's short, Just a few seconds, but to this day, no one has explained its origin. Inside that display case, a small amulet found in Tutankhamun's sarcophagus. And this is where we reach the climax of the legend. Because anyone who studies Egyptian funerary magic knows that amulets weren't just decorative ornaments. They had specific ritual functions. They were charged with symbolic energy meant to protect, to seal, and to repel any invading presence. So what if the amulet was trying to warn them? Today, science remains firm in claiming the curse is pure superstition. But the stories persist. The patterns continue. And anyone who works in the Valley of the Kings admits, even if only in whispers, that there is something different about that place. Egyptian tombs were never meant to be visited. They were constructed to guard a spiritual journey. Breaking that balance may carry consequences we still don't understand. Consequences that transcend time, culture, and logic. And at the center of it all is Tutankhamun, a young, silent pharaoh whose life ended far too early, and whose eternal rest perhaps should never have been disturbed. Because maybe the curse isn't a punishment. Maybe it's a warning, a barrier created to contain something ancient, powerful, and deeply protective. Or something impatient, something that was never meant to be awakened. And now, nearly a century later, one question still echoes like a whisper inside the dark chambers of the Valley of the Kings. Did we truly discover Tutankhamun, or did we merely release what was guarding him? If you enjoy diving into real mysteries, urban legends, and stories that challenge logic, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to the Urban Secrets channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter of history's shadows. And of course, comment below. Do you believe Tutankhamun's tomb is protected by a curse? Or is it all just a series of very, very convenient coincidences? See you in the next mystery.